Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Order. Questions for oral answer?
Mr. Speaker, sir, may I have your permission to address oral questions 1 to 19, as well as questions for written answers 19 to 23, in today's order paper through ministerial statements which will be delivered at tomorrow's sitting, sir.
Yes, I give my consent. That leads us on to question 20. Mr. Darrell David.
Question 20, sir.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of Minister Yeshwaran, can we seek your permission to address questions 20 and 21 in a ministerial statement to be delivered by Minister Yeshwaran later today, please?
I give my consent. That leads us on to question 22. Mr. Murali Pillai.
Sir, question 22, please.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I will address the PQ from Mr. Murali Pillai to CPIB on behalf of the Prime Minister, please. Corruption is not tolerated in any form in Singapore. It undermines public trust and erodes our social fabric. CPIB does not compute the aggregate dollar value of corruption cases prosecuted, as corruption does not always involve money. It pursues all corruption cases regardless of the types of gratification, the quantum of contracts, or amount of bribes involved. Singapore has a hard-won international reputation as a country committed to the rule of law and zero tolerance for corruption. The strong political will to take firm action against all forms of corruption and a society that abhors corruption have contributed to a clean and incorruptible Singapore. Businesses have the confidence that their investment can thrive here because our rules are transparent and applied fairly. Singaporeans can fulfill their potential through their own efforts and hard work in our meritocratic society. Corrupt offenders bear the full brunt of the law and face severe punishments. In addition, CPIB spares no effort to disgorge criminal gains and unexplained assets of those convicted of corruption offences through its rigorous asset recovery efforts. In 2018, 2019 and 2020, the total value of forfeitures imposed by the courts for CPIB cases were about 2.4 million, 3.8 million, and 2.2 million, respectively. The pandemic underscored the importance of digital transformation as some of CPIB's initiatives on this front had minimized disruption to its operations and service delivery. Some examples include the electronic reporting of corruption complaints and the electronic bail platform, which provides bailers and bailees with safe and convenient access to bail extension services virtually. CPIB also launched a digital investigation paper project where documents can be digitally and securely prepared, transmitted, and accessed. CPIB will continue to take bold steps to transform itself and develop its operational readiness to meet emerging challenges in a post-COVID-19 future. To stay ahead of the curve, CPIB has invested in state-of-the-art digital infrastructure through collaboration with strategic partners such as the Home Team Science and Technology Agency and other agencies. Some examples include the setting up of a new command center that enhances situation awareness and the upgrading of digital forensic analytic capabilities. In the prevention and outreach arena, CPIB has co-created public education resources with students from institutes of higher learning such as Nanyang Polytechnic and schools such as St. Joseph's Institution. Some initiatives include an e-book on actual corruption cases and its consequences on the society, and a game web application incorporating anti-corruption materials for young adults. Singapore's clean and corruption-free reputation should not be taken for granted, as it is not immune to the virus of corruption. Singapore must keep fighting corruption wherever it exists and in whatever form it takes. There is no room for complacency, and it requires the constant vigilance and resolute determination of the government, the public service, and the community to continue to keep corruption at bay.
Mr. Murali Pillai.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I thank the Honourable Minister for his comprehensive answer to my parliamentary question. Honourable members would have also read the CPIB's Annual Report 2020, which was presented to Parliament on the 21st of April 2021. Sir, with your indulgence, please allow me to state that what CPIB has achieved last year and the preceding years with a lean team of just 200 people is commendable. The work to detect and investigate cases of corruption is complex. In most crime cases, there have been identifiable victim, for example, a person who has been cheated of his monies or whose valuables have been stolen. For corruption, the paradigm is different. It's not a win-lose situation, it's a win-win situation involving the giver and the acceptor of bribes. As a result of its work, with the support of Singaporeans, Singapore has established a strong brand culture of being intolerant of corruption. Singapore and Singaporean businesses and Singaporeans enjoy a good reputation overseas for the same reason. For all this, we in this House owe the men and women of CPIB, past and present, a debt of gratitude. Sir, my supplemental question is twofold. As CPIB nears its 70th anniversary next year, what steps will it take to entrench the anti-corruption culture in Singapore, especially amongst our younger generations of Singaporeans who may not be as familiar with our past problems with corruption? Next, may I seek an update, if any, on the Honourable Minister's announcement made recently that the legislative levers the CPIB uses, in particular the Prevention of Corruption Act, are being reviewed to keep them relevant in the fight against corruption. Thank you.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Murali for his trust in CPIB as a tenacious and effective agency against corruption. Indeed, for the past 69 years, CPIB has been unwavering and relentless in its efforts to fight corruption. Other than the political will to fight corruption, heavy punishments, and the effective anti-corruption laws, as well as public support, these are all very important factors contributing to the low corruption in Singapore. While the PCA has and continues to serve us well, CPIB will regularly and proactively review the provisions to make sure that the Act is able to keep pace with, if not stay ahead of the evolving threat. To the member's question, I can share the following areas which CPIB is working on with respect to the PCA review. First is to ensure that the punishment for PCA offences are in line with those of other economic crimes. Second, to conduct comparative studies on international legislations to assess, amongst other things, if there's a need to have separate punishment for corporate bodies. Third, to review the need to expand the current extraterritorial provisions by examining past cases where CPIB is not able to take actions on foreigners performing outsourced law enforcement functions where the corrupt transactions were undertaken overseas. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I mentioned in my reply earlier that Singapore's clean and corruption-free reputation should not be taken for granted. Indeed, we must not let our guard down. Low crime does not mean no crime. Likewise, low corruption does not mean no corruption. Corruption, if embedded and become endemic in our society, will alter the fundamental DNA of our societal ethos that have been painstakingly built up over the past many decades. This threat will then diminish the trust and confidence that Singaporeans and others have in each other and in our system, eroding the work ethics and tearing our social fabric apart. So to Mr. Murali's comment that, yes, indeed, in some of these corruption cases, it is a win-win situation for the person providing the bribes and for the person receiving the bribes. But the victims are actually the whole society and our own ethos of what we stand for as a nation and as a people. So the damage goes beyond what may be transacted between the two perpetrators. So this is why that while CPIB has done well in its work all these years, as a society, we need to maintain our vigilance. The threat is always evolving, especially with technological advances and evolving corrupt practices. It is thus important to ensure that the DNA of incorruptibility is ingrained in every Singaporean, young and old. CPIB has been educating our youth and working with them to co-create public education resources for the youth by the youth. Some of these initiatives have been mentioned in my earlier response. Ultimately, businesses must remain fully confident that they can plant their investments here in Singapore because our rules and processes are fair, coherent, and transparent, thereby creating quality jobs for fellow Singaporeans. And our people must always believe that they can succeed because of their honest and hard work. This brand of incorruptibility is also what allows Singapore and Singaporeans to stand tall amidst the global competition, even beyond our shores.